All right, let's see if we can shoot a quick one here while we're getting ready for dinner and stuff. If you ever wondered to yourself, how did cabinet makers do it 80, 50, 80, 100 years ago versus having machines like we do now? Let me show you something that I ran into today. So I'm making a cabinet for a customer. Murphy door bookshelf that opens into a room where they, by code, couldn't have a door. So we're covering up a odd-sized opening, making a bookshelf, opens into the room. But I'm making a cabinet, and I was breaking down sheet goods today, out in the cold, snowing on me, and as I'm breaking down the sheet goods, I set up dado stack to cut some of my rebates. And when I got all the stuff inside, I found out that as I was breaking down the big sheet, I cut the top and the bottom out of the 4-inch wide piece and put a rebate all the way around it with the dado stack, and it's too long. So I didn't stay freezing cold. I got in here on the joinery bench and I decided to cut them down and make them the right length and do the rebate in here by hand, just so that I wasn't out in the cold and the snow, and it was about that much too long. You can see what I did here is I cut that off, and I'm going to show you how I did that. This one's finished now to the right length, which is 37 3/4. And this one that I'm going to grab is too long. So see what your view looks like. These are the top and the bottom of the cabinet that are going to house the sides. There's going to be like 8 shelves in it, and it's going to house the back and the sides. And what I'm doing with it is, from a joinery standpoint, I'm offsetting the connection points so that any of the fasteners are going to go in through the sides where you're not going to see them. But anyway, I have to cut this one down. And the first thing that I'm going to do is decide which side, because my miter fence on my table saw, when I ran these little side rebates here through the dado stack, weren't cutting particularly square. So what I want to do first is decide which side is more out of square. This side's pretty out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the side off that's the most unsquare. Wow, that one's pretty out too. So I'm going to have to fix them both, to be honest with you. Let's see, make sure the ends came out square. These are factory, so see how the factory did on getting it square. That's pretty close. Check the other side. If I get out of view, I apologize, but I'll be back in view in a minute. All right, so the factory edge, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but the factory edge on this side here is pretty far out. So this is the factory edge. Oh, yeah, that hurts. A table saw cut, one of the two, huh? This side is not super square. This side is, but the rebate, on this side over here is not super square. I'm going to have to fix that. And we'll just see what our dimension looks like and if how much we got room to fix it. I might just cut them both off and redo them both. That sucks. See if the other side, if I have room to fix it without messing with it. 3/4 there. And I'm big on this side. God. Keep working in here sometimes because I don't have all that much room. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and cut, shoot, and rebate this side. And then I'm going to redo that side too. So first thing we're going to do is cut this off, shoot it square, mark it, and then cut the rebate. And we want to make sure that we don't go outside our, let's take a measurement from the inside here. Has to be 37 3/4. So make sure we got plenty of room. Oh yeah, we got plenty of room. So let's just go. Let's just cut it here at 43. This measurement doesn't matter. It's always a big question of, geez, how'd they do it years ago when they didn't have all these machines and everything? Well, I'm going to show you how. What we'll do is we're going to cut this. We'll cut this to length first, shoot it to length first, and then do the rebate second. First thing I'll do is get my shooting board up here. Knock over my garbage pail. Get my little, let's see, it doesn't really matter what saw you use because we're going to shoot it perfect. Just trying to prop it up. A little garbage pail out of the way. Gives you a good view. The first thing I'm going to do is just cut this thing off kind of close to the line. Doesn't have to be perfect. I could use any saw in the shop, really. Just going to cut it a hair long so I don't have a ton to shoot. That's probably, I don't know, 1/16 outside the line. Just follow the line down. Just make sure I cut outside the line. This line really doesn't matter because I'm going to just shoot it square and then measure off this to do the other side. Just using a 10-inch saw just because I'm used to cutting with them a lot for cutting 10-inch and stuff. Sometimes this plywood can be a bugger when it changes direction. And we'll keep these for just blocks to clamp stuff down around the bench. And now what we're going to do is we're going to shoot this side square. Grab number 5. Once we get it all kind of cleaned up and squared up, we'll cut it to length and we'll shoot the other side square. For those of you who are not familiar with a shooting board or a shooting plane, I can shoot an edge more perfect than I can measure as far as square goes, both vertical and square to itself in its length. So what I'm doing right now is I'm squaring this edge both vertically and to its length. And basically the shooting board will stop cutting when it gets close. Every now and then we just kind of let the pressure off it, and we'll give her a check here in a second. See how that looks. And it's going to shoot it square to this edge here. I don't know if I can show this, or how well it's going to show up on your camera. But when I tell you it's square, I mean it's perfectly square. And then it should be square to the bottom line too. If this was a very thick piece, then I'd worry about it, but it's not, and it's perfectly square there. It's not just square, it's perfectly square. Let's see. One little spot where it's not perfect. We'll just make it perfect. Just needs a little bit more hung off this back end here. And we're just going to let it come over to the plane. It's not taking off very much now. I'm going to double check it quick. Should be pretty damn close now. And it's pretty much dead nuts. So we get ourselves square here. What we'll do is we'll measure it to length now. I'll flip it around. We're going to measure it to length. We'll cut the thing off, shoot it exactly to perfect length. That's one great thing about a shooting board, is that you can shoot to exact length. Let's see, tape measure, 37, I'm going to double check my paperwork, 37 3/4. The weakest link in this whole process is probably the tape measure. If I measure it a hair long, I can double check it with the tape when I start to get close shooting it. This is the overall length. And we'll double check it with the tape when we get close. Cut the thing off and move my little bench hook over just to support the end of it. I guess I'm not going to move it over enough. Just kind of support the end of it. I'm going to cut just outside my line again, cut it a little bit long, and then shoot to perfect. Probably should have grabbed a more aggressive saw just so it didn't take so long. Now, we'll shoot it over to perfect. Probably won't need the saw again. I'll leave it down on the ground. Now I'm going to shoot it from this side just because I shot the other side from that edge. I'm going to set my shooting plane just a little bit deeper here because I think I got to take a little bit off. Now let's see how close we are. We're going to shoot right to the mark. You could go ahead and just take a knife out and I'm going to get you in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. You could make a knife mark and then shoot to the knife mark here, but I will show you what I'm shooting to. So right now I'm a strong 32nd of an inch too long. I'll shoot it a little bit more. Put out just a little bit. Let's see where we are now. Still going to go a hair. Hope that shows up on camera. Go. Just kick the blade out just a hair. See where we are now. Oh, just a shade more. Just a shade more. Nope. Check it now. We're getting really close. Hopefully that shows up. Maybe just a couple more swipes. Almost perfect. Now what I could do too is I could take the other board right now and check the other board against this one. I just got a little bit too much blade sticking out there. Just back it off just a hair. I think we're going to be just about on the money there. 37 3/4, splitting the line. Perfect. Now, if I did that right, this board's going to be the same length. And they are dead nuts perfect. Exactly the same length. And if you can do it this good, shooting plane out of the way here. If you can do it this good, this makes your joinery and your cabinet go together really seamlessly. So let's go ahead, mark ourselves up here, and shoot ourselves a rebate, cut ourselves a rebate on this. Get my shooting plane out of the way. I mean, my shooting board out of the way. Without knocking my garbage pail over this time. Be great. I don't think I need this bench hook anymore. Might need a couple of blocks. I'm going to shoot myself a straight edge here to use to get my rebate plane started, or my shoulder plane, whatever you want to call it. Call it a shoulder plane. Just shoot ourselves a perfect straight edge here to run the plane against. So now we got a nice straight edge we can use to run the shoulder plane against. We are going to get ourselves a bench hook here. And another bench hook here. Hold that in place. I'll mark myself over 3/4 of an inch here with a marking gauge. I got my marking gauge cutter so that I'm marking a clean edge on the outside. It's tapered at the clean edge on the outside, and it would bevel on the inside. If I wanted to cut that bevel out, you could with a chisel to help give you an edge there for the chisel. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our nice straight edge right dead on that line. You could do this with, you could get it on that line with, just using the combination square or whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to kick this. I'm going to move this over just a hair. Oh, I have one right there. Could have left it there. Just make sure it's perfect. And we'll take our shoulder plane. We're going to cut ourselves our rebate here. I'll get you over here. Maybe this view. I just actually restored the shoulder plane. What we'll do is we will take a bunch off quick. It's actually cutting okay. Just take a bunch off quick till we start to get close. When we get a little bit closer, the one thing that the shoulder plane's not doing a great job of right now is cutting the shoulder. The iron, I just sharpened it for the first time in a long time. I got this in a lot of tools, and I restored it. I just put an edge on it to see how it would work. And the skew angle, if you look at the bottom of this, the skew angle is slightly off. It's going to have to be fixed a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and set ourselves a knife wall with a chisel here. Without moving our board. Get our board out of our way in a minute. Full disclosure, I went a little teeny bit further down with that shoulder plane than I should have. Let's give you a backup view here. I should have stopped a little bit sooner and established that shoulder before I got this far, but it's not a problem. I'll just take out the top here just so that I don't push that knife wall anywhere. No, this is just plywood. I understand that. Make sure we don't tear any out because we're going to want a nice clean edge. I'm just going to walk down the shoulder line here, putting a little pressure on it. Take out that where the shoulder plane didn't cut great. Then we can use this shoulder for the shoulder plane to rest on. Take it down to full depth. Now you could come in with a router plane too, and just use a router plane on this. Doesn't really matter. When I say a router plane, I mean a router plane like this. I could go ahead and set my depth and carve that out with this, but we'll just do it. This is going to work fine. And I wanted to use that shoulder plane just because, like I said, I just knocked all the rust off it and sharpened the iron. And I want to see how it's working. And what this is going to give us is, versus my dado stack, if I had stopped a little sooner, this wouldn't take so long. Versus my dado stack, this is going to give us a perfectly square, perfectly to depth dado here versus running on the table saw. Like I said, I should have stopped a little sooner so I didn't make this big, huge shoulder I have to take off here. Normally, the shoulder plane would cut all the way to the shoulder the whole time. This one's not cutting great on the inside because I got it angled over because that skew angle's off. And it's not sticking out great on that side. And if you ever wondered, you always hear people talk about why you keep the back of a chisel perfectly flat. This is why right here. So I'm registering the chisel on the knife wall, and I can tell when I'm vertical and if I'm tilting, and this is the only reason that you really need a chisel flat on the back. It's this right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set a combination square rather than doing it with a router plane, which would be the simplest way to do it. I'm going to set this down to 1/4 of an inch. So that's how deep my rebate rabbets are. And then I can use this set at 1/4 to see where I'm still high. So I'm high through the whole thing. I'm higher down this end than I am down here. Towards the end here, I'm not very far off. Keep that close by. Take a little bit more of the shoulder out. This is a wider chisel. I can kind of sit on the against the shoulder for a wider registration. And we're going to whack this side down a little bit more. So I'll make some short strokes over here. And because I can tell that it's kind of cutting a little bit skewed, I'm going to come around this side real quick and just kind of even it out by going the other way. And we're going to check it quick, see where we are. Still a little high here. Little high, little high, little high. Where's my pencil? Start with the pencil now. So I'm not high here. Right here, I'm good. I'm high the rest of the way. As far as square goes, it's cutting fairly square now. So I'm going to take a little bit out of this side, just a very little bit. Make it pass the other way. Just about done. That's going to be pretty damn close. Still a little high towards your side. One more pass, maybe. Check her again. Got one little pencil. One little high spot right here. One little high spot right here. Knock those out with the chisel bevel down. Perfect clean edge. Just a teeny little spot right there. Teeny little spot right there. Again, I'll just take the chisel bevel down and just take off my pencil mark. That's it. It's perfect. So a short little video. I'm going to do the other side too, but see his perfect straight square rebate for my cabinet. If you wanted to check it for square, go ahead and I'll probably go along with the chisel and just double check the shoulder, but I want to check it for square. This was my reference face. You can see it's just dead nuts. Dead nuts. It's absolutely perfect. And that's just going to make my joinery, when I put this thing together, it's just going to make everything go together so much more square, so much more perfect. Now, I wouldn't want to do the whole thing this way, believe me. I've got 8 shelves to cut, across this sheet. Got 8 shelves to cut plus a top and bottom. And I've got to do the long rails that go on the sides of this. And what I'll end up doing is I'll do the rails together with a router, cut all the shelf rebates in with those clamped down on the bench together. And then I'll use one of those as the 2 of those a template to transfer those marks to here and then route these off. And with that, Bob's your uncle. Now, there is a piece going on this top and bottom that fits on here. Let's see what your view looks like. I don't want to get long, but so this top and bottom that fits on here like this, and the edge rail comes up into here, there is a double going on here because it's going to be a Murphy door. So there's a double going on here that's going to rebate into this and rebate into the side as well to give me a staggered joint. So I got to work on those, but I need to grab another sheet of plywood and hope that was a little fun. What is today? Tuesday night shop talk. Rebates by hand with shoulder planes and hold downs and hammers and chisels and shooting planes and shooting boards and everything else. So hope that was fun for you. But if you ever ask yourself, how did they do all these cabinets and all this stuff, 100 years ago, well, that's how they did it. Pretty simple. Mark knife lines, shoulder plane them down. Guys that are really good with these, they don't even use a guide. They just shoulder plane it down until they have a shoulder, work their way over to the line, and then just go straight down. So if you were doing this all day in a factory cabinet shop, you wouldn't be using guides and things like that. They do it like they're walking through a party. But yeah, so that's what old barking gauges and planes and saws and stuff looks like in a joinery shop. And get wood chips all over the floor, suck them up, throw them in the wood stove. Fire Solutions out.